Did you see my t-shirt? Says it all really, doesn't it? Hey folks, it's Finn. Welcome back, lovely people. Thank you so much for choosing to spend time with me today and checking out my video. And if you're watching for the very first time, then thank you for choosing one of my videos. I'm Finn, and this is Captain Pip, who's being very calm. See how long that will last. So today's video is a bit of a catch-up about all things health and what's going on with me, and a bit of a mental health and physical health catch-up. I hope I've got nothing in my teeth because I've just had my dinner and I haven't checked my teeth because Pip was quite calm, so I thought I'd just start recording straight away. So, teeth check. Too late. If I've got something in my teeth, and it's just something added amusement, isn't it, for the video. So, we are almost halfway through the year. It is now May, which means it's almost halfway through the year. At the beginning of this year, I made a video where I spoke about, well, it was January. So the typical January thing, isn't it, is you talk about the year ahead. And I talked about how I just had this massive realization, really, where I'd been working on kind of coming to terms with my ME, CFS, chronic illness, and just how massively my life had changed. And I'd come to the point where I'd really had this big realization where I had to stop trying to get my life back, because I couldn't get my life back because it had changed, and instead work on building a new life with the way things were, you know. And I'd been kind of really trying to fight to keep my life, keep the work I was doing, and still try and live a life. And I was driving myself potty, and it was getting really miserable. You know, if you followed my journey, you know, I've been really struggling with my mental health around this, because ME CFS steals everything. You know, I've got moderate to severe ME, so it's taken away my mobility. I'm 70% housebound, in that I struggle on my own to get out. I need a lot of help to get out of the house because it takes a lot of energy to get out of the house. If I do it alone, it's very difficult. And that's been really hard on my mental health, of course. I already had mental health difficulties before ME, so this has really given me a huge knockback, because I'd worked really hard on my anxiety and getting out and about. So yeah, there's been a big loss of independence, a big loss of my sense of self, a big loss of who I imagined I was going to be. I'd finished my gender transition and had all these big plans. I'd started my own business and was beginning to be really successful as a public speaker and an author and all of these things. And then bang, you know, I got really poorly with ME CFS and POTS and now polymyalgia and all of these things. It's just been constant kind of firefighting with my physical health, which has been really, really tough. And there's been a lot of grieving around that and trying to kind of accept where things are, but still trying to keep upbeat and keep my life going. And yeah, at the beginning of the year, I just was having this big realization of, you know, I've just got to surrender. And I had been kind of surrendering, but not to the extent that I needed to, I think, is the key thing. And it was that distinct difference between kind of hanging on to the old life too much and trying to like keep that, whereas I've been, you know, I'm in recovery, so I've gone through AA, and I realise the futility of, like, you know, God give me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference, you know. And I cannot change the fact that I've got this illness right now, you know. And what was making me more miserable was just constantly trying to do stuff that was just making me poorly. And so yeah, I had to say it was time to just say goodbye to work. And that was one of the things I didn't want to do. But at the beginning of this year, I knew that it was right, because what I had to prioritise was my health and my well-being, because not getting out was actually making me more miserable. I've got this gorgeous, gorgeous puppy that I wasn't getting any time with out and about. I wasn't getting any time being me. And I knew that I needed to try and get out, even if it was once a fortnight, walking him, try and get to some support groups, doing things like that. And if I was spending all of my energy trying to do even one a month talk, I had no energy left to then try and get out and walk him, to try and get out to a support group. And I had to be sensible and think, okay, if I've only got a little bit of energy, I've really got to save it and not spend it on work, but spend it on things like getting to a support group, getting out with my puppy. I'm sorry he's on camera doing that. Can you not when we're on camera, darling? This isn't OnlyFans. We'll set you up on that on another time. So I guess I felt too indulgent doing that. That felt like, well, it's silly, isn't it? Because I talked to, when I was seeing somebody from the ME service, I talked to her about this, and she said it's really important to prioritise your leisure time. And I made a video about this, and it's the first thing that goes when you're poorly. You think, oh, I haven't done my admin, I haven't done my work, I haven't done my housework, so I need to do that. My leisure time isn't as important, and of course it is. And anyway, going out to a support group isn't leisure time, it's important stuff. I need to think about the ways in which I can look after myself and interact with others and support my physical and my mental health. So yeah, that's the background of what's been going on this year. So I'm pleased to say that it's gone really, really well, and it's had a surprising effect. Now, I thought that actually giving up all work and saying no to work would actually make my mental health worse and would make the grieving worse, but actually it hasn't. My mental health's improved. I'm sad every time I say no to a bit of work. I get this kind of sicky feeling and I feel sad. I'm still in WhatsApp groups for some of the work I'm involved with, or was involved with, and I can see people being active and doing work, and I get this sicky feeling and I feel like sad, but it's not actually impacting me in the way I thought it would. And I think the reason for that is because I'm having spare energy to go out and do things, and I'm getting my sense of self back and my sense of being part of the world again. Because beforehand I was spending all of my time resting to do a piece of work, doing a piece of work, and then being exhausted. And then when I was spending time with my pup or with Chris, I was too tired. And then worrying about the fact that I couldn't spend much time with them, because if I did, I'd be too tired to do the next bit of work. Sorry, he's now going to get some squeaky stuff out. I knew this would happen. So I think that's why my mental health's improved, because I'm now actually doing stuff that's making me feel whole again and like my life has meaning again. So although I miss the work and I hope one day to be able to do it again, it isn't actually having the negative impact that I thought it would. Pip, can you choose something unsqueaky? Is that possible? Or can you lie down and have a puppy nap? So I've been to a couple of different support groups this year. I went to one called Marbles, which is a really lovely support group with people with various different mental health conditions. And that was really great. Unfortunately, it didn't kind of work with Pip's people who walk him. So I've swapped to a different one, which actually works out better. It's a men's support group run by Mind. And I actually prefer it because I still struggle to interact with people. This is an ongoing thing with me with my anxiety, and I'm still kind of exploring what's going on with my anxiety. It's a lifelong thing. It's probably a whole other video to talk about. Pip, leave it, darling. Get something non-squeaky. Come and have a puppy nap. So now this men's mental health one is very different because we're kind of in a circle and we go round and we talk individually about what's going on with us and around a table kind of thing. And I prefer that style of doing things rather than kind of like talking to each other. I always struggle talking to people. I like being with people, but I still struggle communicating with people because that's what makes my anxiety really bad. So I actually prefer that. The swimming that I was going to try and do, but it wasn't swimming. I was going to a pool with a disabled group, and I was just going to go and be in water. That didn't go as well. I had one session and then crashed really badly. I think that's too much with the kind of getting changed, getting in a pool, getting out of the pool, getting changed again and going home, even though Chris went with me. That's not going to work. Trouble with MECFS, anything remotely exercise, it just doesn't work with us. Really doesn't work. I'm going to try again later in the year. It might have been just a bit too much too soon with all of the other changes I was going through as well, with my whole energy envelope changing with how I'm doing things. But at least, you know, the getting out and about, because I mean, going all the way to town, which is a 45-minute bus ride to go to this support group, this is a lot, you know. So I'm really pleased with that. I'm getting out with Pip, not every week, but it's probably every other week. I'm doing probably one walk a week with him, but on average, I suppose at the moment with the support group, I'm getting out, say twice a month, maybe two, 3 times a month, which is incredible compared to what I used to do. I wouldn't have been able to do that before because obviously that takes a lot of out of me, and that's amazing. So that sense of independence that, you know, I'm getting out, I'm getting on a bus, I'm getting off a bus, I'm going around my little village on my own, you know, I'm getting my hair cut out of the house now on my own. And these things might seem little to some people, but to me they're huge, you know, because I already had anxiety anyway. So these kind of things, getting on a bus on my own, going in a shop and getting a haircut on my own, are huge anyway. Then when you've got an energy limiting condition and anxiety kind of sucks up your energy even more, to be able to do these things are incredible, you know. And I now have the energy to be able to do these things. So it's all going really, really well. And I'm really pleased. I don't want to go on in this video too long. I don't want this to be too much a long video. I wanted to give you this catch-up video and have you all watch it and not take 50 minutes of your time. Because I know what I'm like. I go on a lot because I'm really passionate. But I'm really feeling quite proud of myself with what I've achieved this year so far. Because I always feel like I don't achieve. But that's because it's really difficult when you're chronically ill to feel like you achieve. Because we're always taught in society that achieving is kind of like concrete stuff. But this stuff is very much achieving, you know. I might not have like done kind of talks this year and been to events and things like that, but my goodness, I've really kind of built a new kind of life this last kind of 5 months and found a way forward with this condition in a way that I feel, and this might sound odd, and I keep trying to say this to people in a way that I think people who are poorly get this, but people that I don't are a bit like, what do you mean? I feel much better at being sick now than I did 5 months ago. You know, when I'm having a really poorly day, I'm not as frustrated. And I think that's because I'm having much more days when I'm able to still live and do things, like when I'm able to go, oh yeah, but last Wednesday I got myself on a bus and I got a haircut, you know. And I think that's why, whereas before all I had to look back on was like, yeah, I did a talk last week, and although I love my work's great, but I want a life, you know. And I think that's what's different, I hadn't taken into account before January this year. I was so kind of like proud of myself with my work, and that was so much of my identity that the idea of losing all that was who I, you know, who am I if all my work goes then? But I'd forgotten that who I am, it's just me, you know. I got so lost in that me now is like the me that can just go and feel good about myself by getting a haircut, by getting on a bus and just feeling the wind in my face down at the park with my puppy and watching him kind of like bounce around. Am I making sense, you know? So I've gone off tangent and forgot what I'm saying. but yeah, I'm much better at being sick. So when I'm poorly, I've got some things set up in the garden that I really enjoy looking at. I've got like a wind spinner that a really kind YouTube subscriber bought for me off my Amazon wish list, which is really nice. Milo, you're lovely, and I love watching that spin in the garden. I've got a bird table, and finally birds are landing on it. And when I'm really not well and I can't move, when I'm really poorly, I can't even scroll through social media. You know, I just sit there. But it used to be really frustrating. But now when I'm really poorly, having a really rough day, I kind of almost like to sink into it, and I just put a blanket over myself, and I just stare out the window at my wind spinner and my birds, and I'm not as frustrated as I once would have been with that. You know, I'm finding myself much better at being sick, if that makes any sense whatsoever. And that's only happened this year from kind of this radical acceptance of this is how it is. And this doesn't mean I don't want to get better. Somebody whose name I was going to write down and I've forgotten made a comment, I think on my one of my other videos about Emmy, I can't remember, about it's really nice to see somebody talking about living with this condition rather than talking about recovery. And it isn't that I don't want to recover, of course. You know, people do recover with ME. There are lots of people who have this for a while and then suddenly get well. There isn't an actual cure. There's nothing we can take. You know, there's no evidence to suggest that any particular diet works or anything like that. But there are a percentage of people that just over time recover from it. And I'm not ruling out that I'm one of them. But I'm also being realistic that I'm 50. I have hypothyroidism, POTS, and I have other coexisting problems. And that brings down my likelihood of getting better. But also, I want to be realistic and not kind of have this hope all the time of like, well, you know, when I get better, I'm going to do this. I spoke about this with my mental health. That it was like, when I reach this well enough place, I'm going to do this, that, and the other. Do you remember how I spoke about this? And I spoke about it in my TEDx talk. And if you haven't seen my TEDx talk, I'll put a link up to my TEDx talk. And I used to put my life on hold and say, when I'm well enough, I'll do this. And it's the same with this. I could spend ages saying, when I've recovered, I'll do this. This is how it is now. I have this amount of mobility now. I have this amount of energy now. I have this amount of wellness now. And that's what I have to work with now. If I wake up tomorrow and I feel better, then I'll work with what I've got tomorrow. Do you know what I mean? All we have is one day at a time and how we are now. I'm not ruling out recovery. This isn't me surrendering and saying this is all I've got. When we talk about surrender, and this is really important to get, acceptance doesn't mean that this is how, I'm just saying this is how it is and it's not going to get any better. It's accepting to how it is now, surrendering to how it is now. Surrender and acceptance isn't giving up. It's just accepting how it is now. And then if miraculously things get better, that's wonderful. But what often makes us miserable, and was making me miserable, was just like going, oh, I can't accept it, it's got to get better. That causes us misery, doesn't it? Hanging on to it's got to. Well, it isn't right now. So why am I making myself miserable when it isn't right now? This is how it is right now. So I might as well accept how it is right now. And if it's better tomorrow, then great. You know what I mean? Because otherwise, what's the point? I'm just going to be bloody miserable. And who wants to be bloody miserable? Do you know what I mean? Oh my God, the puppy's just fallen asleep and it's so cute. So yeah, I'm really pleased with how it's been this year. And, you know, me and Chris have both made lots of changes. You know, there's some things we've had to just give up completely. And one of the biggest things that I've had to give up completely this year that I've already cried about in one of my videos is Glastonbury Festival. You know, there are some things that you just cannot adapt. Again, it's the courage to change the things you can, wisdom to know what you can't. I cannot go to festivals. You know, I'm so glad I did that last Glastonbury Festival, but it almost killed me. I'm not well enough to do festivals at the end of. And it breaks my heart. But there are some things where I just say there is no way I can adapt this enough to manage it without it doing me harm. there are some things I can do and accept a little bit of a payback, a crash, or a little bit of post-exertional malaise. There are other things where I'm like, nah, that's just not acceptable. It's too much damage. Can't do it. You know, so there are some things I can adapt. There are some things I've got to say goodbye to. Festivals are one of them. We are, however, going to do some little mini things. We're doing Woofstock, which is a doggy festival with some tribute bands, and that's what me and Chris are doing. We've just sold our trailer tent, another thing I cried about, because I love camping, I love canvas. Saying goodbye to tents has just felt like devastating. I'm just selling all of my camping gear, which has been really hard, but again, it's letting go. Even if I get well, I'm never going to be back under a tiny tent with a massive rucksack on my back walking miles. I've got to be honest about this. So I'm letting go of all of that. We've just bought this lovely caravan, as you know, and my goodness, I'm actually loving it. You know, we've made that work. We've adapted that. We need to adapt it a bit more. The awning is too big. It's still a lot of hassle for Chris to put up on his own, and it's making me want to help, and I can't, and I shouldn't. So we're actually selling the awning, and we've got a smaller canopy which will work better and be less stress. So in the next video, I'm going to show you our last camping video, and then I'll show you, because we're off camping next weekend, our new porch, which is going to be even easier to put up, because this caravan was all about making it even easier. So Chris and I together, because he's not well either, are streamlining our lives and simplifying our lives to make it everything as easy as possible so we can both rest. Chris is even changing his job as well, because he does a lot of looking after me. He's also got to look after himself. So we're both just streamlining, simplifying everything so we can both be as stress-free, both prioritise our health and well-being of each other and together as best as possible. But yeah, so far it's all been a very good move forward this year. But yes, I'm going to end that there, but just say thank you everyone for all of the lovely comments you leave. I'm very, very much aware that I'm much slower to reply to comments than I used to be, but I promise you I do get around to replying to most of your comments. It's just sometimes they're like a month behind, but I read so many, and I'm so grateful for everyone who leaves comments. I do only have one problem with the new way I create stuff, is that guilt is very much there, that I wish I could make more content. You know, I do struggle with the fact that the only bit remaining of this business of mine that I've got remaining, which I call a hobby now just to make it a bit easier, is my content. You know, I love making content, I love writing. I'm not doing much. I've made some Substack writing and then I haven't done any more. I'm trying to make videos as often as I can. It's not as often as I'd like. So I feel guilty about that, but I'm trying to deal with that. And you're also lovely when you say, just make him when you can. And I'm really grateful for that. But, you know, my lovely members who subscribe and pay monthly subscriptions, I do feel guilty that I'm not getting members content out to you all. And, you know, everyone who donates on Ko-fi as well, who I'm really grateful to, that I'm not getting content out as much as I'd like to. I do apologise. There is a post up about the caravan on my Ko-fi page, which I'll link here, and there's also a post on your YouTube members thread as well, and I'm going to try and get some more pictures posted on my Ko-fi members thread and YouTube members thread this week as well. But I just want to let you know how grateful I am to everyone, all of the Finn fam, all of the friends of Finn Club as well, to you all. And my lack of posting and lack of being on social media does not ever mean that I'm not grateful, and I hope you realise that. I will always try and update you when I can. But yes, there will be a camping video from our last time camping about the awning setup and the puppy setup coming soon. But then we're camping this weekend coming over the Maybank holiday weekend with a new porch setup coming soon. So you've got lots of videos coming soon. They're just going to be a bit sporadic and out of sync as per usual. But yeah, much love everyone. Thanks for watching. Take good care of yourselves, and I'll see you soon. And bye bye from the cute puppy. See you folks.